Hello and welcome to Don't Feed the Geeks, presented by the Long Island Comic Guys, the masters of the geeky verse. I am TC, joined today by Bojo,
Red 5 standing by,
Dungeon Master,
Greetings, adventurers,
and JJ.
What up?
We don't know where Toy Story is. We might have lost him.
He
He fell out of the toy box.
I know he went to Disneyland in California, so maybe
I think he's part of the show
attractions.
now. Yeah, he's in Buzz's Magical Fantasyland.
he's there. He's staying. All right. How's everybody doing tonight?
We're
Doing good?
great.
Nice.
Don't tell anybody, but we just finished recording the live Red Sun book stream.
And I hope people can actually check it out on our YouTube page. When you get a chance, look us up on YouTube, Long Island Comic
Good
Guys.
call, JJ.
I'm throwing that tag in there.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
All right, so we're gonna jump into the geek beat
Nice.
without Toy Story. We'll make this a joint
We'll just
effort.
make it a joint effort. I like the joint effort stuff.
So there's been this little thing called Disney Plus. Has anyone heard of it yet?
Did it
reach
come
out
out
to
already?
us if you have.
No, tell me, what is it?
So apparently Disney opened this streaming service, and it has a library of Disney, Fox, Disney properties. Let's say.
I think Toy Story's ears were burning because he just texted us, "How's it going, guys?"
Wouldn't you like to know?
He heard us. I'm sorry to interrupt there, but I thought that was a little funny that he.
Ooh, what timing!
That was good timing. So what is this Disney Plus?
So Disney Plus, it's a streaming service. It has a ton of stuff on there. All the Disney properties, everything they've acquired recently. Now there are a few things that aren't on there yet because some of the licenses haven't expired on where they currently reside. One of the things I know for sure is The Last Jedi, which if anybody for some reason you have something wrong with you and you wanted to watch that again, you can't watch it on Disney Plus yet.
It's on Hulu. It's on Hulu
It's I believe it's Netflix.
or Netflix.
Yeah.
Netflix. You're right. I'm sorry.
But let's go into what we've been watching. I'm gonna kick it off because I'm a big Star Wars fan. JJ and the rest of the guys here don't really care for Star Wars. There's this Mandalorian show that came out, which is short of fantastic. It's amazing.
Yes.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Only gripe, it's a little short, but it's funny. One of my coworkers today, he's like, you know what? I'd rather it be 30 minutes of amazing instead of an hour where there was 30 minutes that dragged. And I was like, you know what? You're right.
Okay. I'll agree with that.
Yeah. And so episode 1, I think was a little bit longer, is maybe closer to 40 minutes.
39 minutes.
39 minutes. Yeah. This last episode seemed about 28.
28.
So unlike Netflix also, for any of you who aren't already watching or subscribing to Disney Plus.
I'm not subscribed.
Yep. Big mistake.
Big mistake.
It's okay. I'll get to it eventually.
It is releasing every Friday.
Yep.
So the new original content is releasing weekly. I'm not sure if everything's going to do that, but they're definitely doing that with The Mandalorian.
Smart.
Yeah, and I think it keeps interest peaked. I actually personally, listen, I love to watch everything right away, but it takes some of that pressure off too.
Yes.
Like, it brings back that kind of old TV watching. Now, granted, have I been watching it every morning as soon as I wake up on my travels into work? Yes. But one Friday night where I'm not busy, I may actually watch that at home on the big screen TV.
Yeah.
And I think it's nice to have that option to do that.
And I'm not fighting with other people not looking at Facebook or any other social media.
Right, who have finished it all in
Yeah.
one shot. The 16-year-old kids who spent 18 hours, watching a 14-episode show.
So
But,
so what is this focusing on? So The Mandalorian is focusing on what?
So anyone who doesn't know what Mandalorians are, if you're not a Star Wars fan, Mandalorians are basically the race or planet of people that Boba Fett comes from. So now,
Mandalore.
yeah, I don't want to. I'll get into this
There's a whole lore
without
on this.
having to get into this
Yeah.
too deeply. So Boba Fett's essentially a clone, so he's not really a Mandalorian.
He's not
but,
true.
Jango Fett was a Mandalorian.
Jango Fett was a Mandalorian.
They're technically not, but there's a whole backstory to that. Technically,
Whoa, what?
yeah,
Really?
yeah.
All right, but
we're not going to go.
But
into
he's a bounty hunter.
Okay, that's fine.
This is kind of
Cool.
it's Dog the Bounty Hunter meets Star Wars. That's what The Mandalorian is.
I hear it's kind of got like a Western vibe.
I think it's more of a
100%,
Western,
yeah.
like John Wayne. Like this is John Wayne walking in the desert,
Yeah, to a certain degree.
or
It's,
Dirty Hair, not Dirty Hair, but
Yeah, it's
Man with No Name trilogy.
There you go.
It's definitely a sci-fi. He doesn't have a name. Everyone refers to him as Mandalorian or Mando. There's been great cameos so far. Nick Nolte plays what's that race called? Is it Pigface?
It's Ugnaught.
Ugnaught. His name's Quill.
Nick Nolte's in
He's
this?
been fantastic.
I have spoken.
I have spoken has been his line,
That's
and
the
I've been
tagline.
using that constantly.
So
it's great.
if you look at him, it's got his face to it to some degree.
Oh, I'm sure that they have like the dots on,
And I loved
they've been doing a little bit of that. What is it called? Screen capture or face capture?
Yeah, it's like mocap,
Yeah.
like face cap, I guess. Or
But it's been fantastic. And granted, this is only 2 episodes. By the time this is dropped, we would have already watched the 3rd one. So I mean, we've been posting about it each time it came out.
Yep.
You know, the last episode was great. He was looking for the Suka. He ran into the Jawas. So interesting. So was that Tatooine?
No.
That's what everyone's saying. That's Tatooine because Jawas are supposedly indigenous or
could
native
be.
to Tatooine.
It
And
could be like
there was a scene where they show the double suns.
Yeah, it could be like the opposite end of the planet.
Oh.
I mean, you really didn't see too much in the movies. So
Interesting.
Yeah.
Tatooine is where Boba dies.
There's speculation that Boba isn't dead. By the way.
Yeah, there's
So
yeah.
the first episode there's
a great
there's-
book on this, on the whole Boba Fett
Blood ties?
being able to no an actual novel
Oh, okay.
of the aftermath of
real
him going into the Sarlacc
Throne
pit.
trilogy.
Everything happens outside that, so it's a great book. But yeah, he gets out. Blah 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 blah.
yeah.
But let's focus on this stuff.
But quickly on episode 1, if someone said this, I don't know if this is true. If you pause it at a certain scene, you can see Boba Fett's character in the background.
I think
But-
that's been squashed.
So I think the big thing that's come out of this is we've seen, and granted, this is spoiler alert. Right now, if you haven't watched Mandalorian, you want to watch Mandalorian, you don't want to be spoiled. Either skip ahead. We'll tell you when to skip ahead. Someone will, or stop right now. But there is a child version of Yoda.
Yes.
Now we don't know what their species is. We don't know what planet they're from. So the Mandalorian is told in the first episode, you have to recover a 50-year-old individual. And we know from Star Wars lore that when Yoda died, he was 900 years old.
Yep.
And
Over
there's an
900.
IG-88. Is that the
IG11.
IG11.
IG-11, excuse me. IG-11 unit that says not all species age at the same rate. So you see basically a baby Yoda at the end of first.
It's freaking
episode.
awesome. And it's
awesome.
cute as hell.
It's cute. The toys are already flying off the shelves for Christmas.
Well, yeah,
Of course.
they held out all the merchandise on this until it dropped because they didn't want people to know about these characters before it dropped.
which is a brilliant idea. I would have done the same thing.
I'm going to say that as someone who hasn't seen the series, doesn't have Disney Plus, there's no way to avoid that spoiler that there's a baby Yoda.
Because
Oh,
it's everywhere.
It's all over the
Everywhere.
net. It's all over the net.
Yeah.
And it is adorable.
But it's a fantastic show. Again, we're only 2 episodes in. I think it's going to be 8 total.
8.
8. So by the time this drops, we would have seen the 3rd. But we're obviously excited about all of them.
Oh, yeah.
But that being said, there is a plethora of stuff out there, old and a decent amount of new. They're still building up the original content. But Bojo, you're not going to be able to contribute to this. And do you have Disney Plus?
Oh, absolutely.
All right, so only Bojo isn't going to be able to contribute to what have you been watching on Disney Plus?
I spoke too much before anyway.
That's true.
Honestly, just The Mandalorian.
Wow.
I mean, I've seen all the
wasting
all
your
the Star
money.
Wars.
You were
movies.
wasting. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I know there's a lot there. I mean, I definitely want to watch. I've been pretty busy at home, but the Black Hole is on there, which I loved. It was funny. A couple of months ago, I was just talking with our friend Jason. That it's like it's like they haven't had the Black Hole on TV, and it's like sure enough, here comes Disney Plus, so it's gonna be there. But all the animation stuff, and the newer live action, like the Lion King and
Well, that's not on there yet.
Oh, it's not?
The original Lion King and Aladdin. So I thought
Yeah,
they were.
they're on there.
No, they're not.
The live action?
Yeah.
Oh, not the live action.
The live action.
No.
Yeah. The cartoons
yet.
are, but
Yeah, it's probably way too new. But
I think they'll be on there soon. I think they're supposed to be on there by the new year.
I would
yeah,
think so.
there's just so much stuff on it. And it was kind of funny because I read an article and they said something that you won't see on Disney Plus. I was like, I don't know if any of you read it. Their one animated special, Song of the South.
Yeah, let's not get into that.
It's like I remember seeing it. It's
Bob
like
Iger has said that
Yeah.
that
I'd like to
will
see
never be
it,
shown
so-
again, and you won't see it again.
yeah, but
All right, so just Mandalorian.
yeah.
All right,
So far, just the Mandalorian.
all right, JJ.
But
Let's hear.
This weekend is a free weekend for me, so I'm probably going to be
So
watching
next
a lot of stuff.
episode, you tell us. All right, JJ, let's hear from you.
So where do I begin?
I don't know. You tell us.
Jesus, Christmas. So yeah, Mandalorian is
Christmas.
Yep, Christmas. Yeah, I will go. I will start there. So yes, I've been watching a lot of these stupid Christmas movies.
I haven't even told my daughter there's a movie named after her yet.
I'll get to that. I'll get to that. I will get to that
too.
I got to. Yes, I did. I'm a creep when it comes to this. So yeah, so Mandalorian. The other series that I've been watching, which is really good, The Imagineering Story.
Oh, I do want to see that.
So
It's
this
on my watch
basically takes us back to when Walt started Disney, basically from the parks.
I am a super sucker for Walt Disney biopic stuff. I've probably seen five
This
different kinds.
this is really good.
Yeah.
And it just basically tells the story of him starting up the parks and the troubles that he's gone through, and they're on the episode. I think it's on the same time frame, the same timing as The Mandalorian, because a new episode dropped on Friday. So there's two
Okay.
episodes now.
Yeah, I did see that. That was
So I'm
too.
watching that. I was a sucker for the Santa Claus when that came out. Tim
The first
Allen.
movie's fantastic.
I liked it.
I
liked
enjoyed
it.
the second one too.
The
third one's
I never seen the second and third one. Who knew? I didn't even know that there was a third one. So I watched the second and third one.
My
the second
daughter
one,
loves that movie. She's like, I want to watch Charlie and Santa. She says.
it's cute. The second one he gets married. The third one, he's got a kid. So it's good. There is a movie called Noelle.
Yes.
I did catch that one today. It's the chick Anna. What's her last name?
Paquin?
No.
Perfect Pitch.
Kendrick.
Yes,
Yeah.
I like her. She basically is Santa Claus.
Huh.
What else? Jeez. There's last night I watched Steamboat Willie. I've never seen Steamboat Willie.
Neither have I.
1928. It's 7 minutes long, and my God, Mickey Mouse was a jerk.
Was.
He was
Was
a
a
jerk.
jerk.
He was a jerk. I mean,
Funny story. So there's this. I used to listen to this radio station, and they were owned at some point by Disney, and they used to do this thing where Mickey Mouse would berate. At the time, who was before Bob Iger? It was
Roy Disney.
no. It was
Eisner.
Will Eisner.
Eisner.
Not Will Eisner. It's a different Eisner. But
It
yeah.
was something Eisner. But they used to say, "Listen here, Eisner," and Iger would be like, "It's Iger." It's Iger, sir. Yeah, whatever. But it was basically Mickey berating the CEO, and it was fantastic.
Listen here, Eisner.
But here, with Steamboat Willie, you've got Mickey Mouse who's beating on animals, making them into drums and trumpets, and really just
Jerk face Willie.
Toy Story's been saying he's been watching the early Mickey stuff, and he says fantastic.
It's
so
fantastic.
it makes sense because Toy Story is kind of a jerk.
Nice.
I'm kidding. I love him to a certain degree.
Oh.
He's a good guy.
There's a scene where
for a Toy Story.
there was a mama pig, and she was nursing a bunch of little piglets, and Mickey Mouse is pulling them off
The teat.
the teat, making them squeal to go along with the song. And I was like, and then he picks up.
We might be going too far down.
It's
this
so
road
weird.
already.
Yeah, we're done with that. But there's so much on here.
Yeah.
Like my pull list, my watch list. I mean,
Your cue?
you've got
Yeah.
everything from DuckTales to
Yeah.
Trons and the. There's just so much.
Yeah.
I saw the gummy bears.
Yeah, I love the gummy bears.
The
as a
gummy
kid.
bears are on there.
Yeah. honestly, everything from like the Disney afternoon, like from when I was growing up. I think you guys were probably a little older. Bojo,
I remember
probably around the age right for that. I think you were a little young, probably for the Gummy Bears. But
Don't remember Gummy Bears.
All that stuff was fantastic. It's
good
all
stuff.
on every single thing's on there. I watched one episode of Rescue Rangers. What I've been watching, obviously, yes, I have been. I did watch The Mandalorian. What I've been crushing through is I believe at this point now I've gotten through 23 episodes of the Gargoyles. Disney's Gargoyles is like I forgot how good it was. This is a cartoon.
I
not
actually
made
forgot
for,
that was
for
Disney.
adults. It's like it's a young adult, but like adults can totally enjoy this. Like I'm enjoying it now, like forgetting most of it. Like the fact that I can stream the whole thing so quickly. I remember watching that and being like, oh, it would end like always on a cliffhanger. And I love, even as a kid, I hated cartoons that weren't structured. I love that this is like, oh, something happened in this episode. It was almost like a comic book.
And it
It's
carries
like,
through.
It's like something important's going to happen later on that's related to this. So it's just like everything happened. It's like a really good one.
So So the only problem I have with these shows, though, they're not in order.
Some of them aren't. You know what the problem is? So I noticed this with Rescue Rangers and DuckTale and Rescue Rangers and Darkwing Duck. Is that the pilot episodes were later shown, so they moved them into the middle.
Right.
So for those, you have to check IMDb, which I did on some of them. But like I watched Willow and Endgame. There's a ton of good stuff. On there. So
check it out.
We've spent the whole episode talking about this now. So
we're going to continue
move
talking
on from
about
Disney
this
Plus.
over other shows.
Oh,
But,
yeah, this isn't the end of it. We will bring it up again.
Bojo saw some cool stuff in terms of costume design. So a future show that's coming out
on Disney Plus. Way to bring that together. I love it.
Oh, you can't. This isn't a live stream anymore. I'm making faces. All right, Bojo, take it away with these new designs we've seen.
So they just started showing the character designs. And these are illustrations. These aren't actual photos of the characters, but it's the character designs for Captain America. Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I'm saying Captain America because at the end of Avengers Endgame, we all know that Falcon gets that shield. Spoilers, I suppose. Falcon's wearing a more colorful suit. He's wearing the blue, white, and the red. I don't see the shield in the character design, but that's okay.
I think that's intentional.
I think it's probably intentional. He's wearing the thing that Cap has, where it's, I guess, the harness for it on his back. Yeah. So I think it's pretty obvious he's going to be having that
can
shield
be the
regardless.
wings.
I don't think that's what it is. It looks more like what Cap used to have in the last two movies.
I do like that it's kind of a mix between his kind of traditional costume and a mix of the Captain America costume.
He doesn't have a star anywhere on him. He doesn't have the aside from the coloration, he doesn't have any of the American flag that he did when he was Captain America.
It seems to have more red in his suit too.
Which is but it's fine. His bird used to be called Red Wing. I know he's got did he have that thing?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like a little drone that
was
he
a
called
robot
Red Wing, right?
Yeah.
So we saw the new look of the Falcon. We have a new look at Winter Soldier. Ladies, sorry, he's cut his hair.
Thank God.
He's still got that Wakandan arm, I think. It's that dark metal arm, that vibranium arm. It's got the star on the shoulder as well, but it's not that red one. It's the white one.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I'm a little disappointed in his costume. I would have liked to see a little bit more, but I know that's kind of the look you get with the Winter Soldier.
It's the look you get with the Winter Soldier, and we're only seeing him from the waist up.
Yeah.
And then
he could have some fancy pants on. He could have stars and stripes.
I think he's going to have stars and stripes. Nothing says covert like stars and stripes pants. We also see Emily Van Camp as Sharon Carter reprising her role. Shield agent.
The girl from Everwood?
The girl from Everwood is Sharon Carter, and the guy from Everwood is Star-Lord.
Yes, he is.
What a wacky world we live in. So she's got a new costume design. It looks more tactical. She's got the double holster for the two guns.
Yeah.
I guess we're gonna see her in action. We've got our first look at Baron Zemo.
My favorite drop here. I know what yours is, but Baron Zemo looks great. I like that he has a comic look without it looking ridiculous.
Yes. I love it. I think the ski mask is fantastic.
Yeah, 100%.
I think it's great.
If it's
I can't
not
wait.
if it's not purple on the show though, I'm going to be gravely disappointed.
It's probably like a deep purple.
That's fantastic.
Anyway, and then the last one we have is John Walker, U.S. Agent. So it's a little riff on the Captain America costume. He's got Captain America's helmet, but instead of the A, he's got the star. He's got a star kind of off to the side, and it's on the harness as well. I have no idea what they're doing with John Walker like here. I don't know how he plays. Yeah, I don't know how he plays into the story, but I'm excited to find out. Sure. Artwork looks cool. Listen, they've whet my appetite. I was already excited for it. I don't have Disney Plus at the moment, but I'm definitely going to have it by the time this drops.
100%.
They got me.
So a little bit more on the Disney Plus news. So one of the other announced shows that we've heard about is Moon Knight. So no details have come through on this yet. One of the things I am hearing is it is going to tie into the Blade movie. Again, a rumor. I don't know how true that is. But specifically for Moon Knight, in a recent interview, the Russo brothers said, so previously they said the only thing that would bring them back to Marvel would be Secret Wars, but they said that they are very interested in Moon Knight as a character. And, you know, right now they're working on other projects, but, you know, so they're not saying no to anything at this point in time.
So you said that the Moon Knight was going to tie into Blade?
That's the story.
Is that part of the comic? I don't know anything about Moonlight or Blade.
Moon Knight and Blade are kind of in the same monster realm. I believe they do interact in the comic books. Can you confirm that, Bojo?
I cannot confirm that.
All right. Very early on, so
that seems an odd combo.
So Moon Knight's first appearance is in Werewolf by Night. Is
32.
32. So he has relation to monsters. He's hired to, you know, hunt down the werewolf. I'm sure they can easily switch that to him, like trying to track down Dracula or something along those lines, or maybe they both try and track down this werewolf. But it's interesting. It's interesting to hear that the Russos are attracted to this, property.
Wow.
Okay.
Chris Campana, maybe you got in on this. I know you're a big Moon Knight guy. But cool. That's I think that wraps up all the Disney stuff. A lot of news on the other side of the pond with the DC side. So the biggest news that's come out is there's a pretty big guy. Big news for a big guy. His name, he goes by
Jack
Dwayne.
Black? Oh.
He has a middle name. Oh, The Rock Johnson. Yes,
that's right.
The Rock. Middle name is The Rock.
I believe it is. Yeah. He looks like a rock.
Sculpted like
more like a boulder.
Yes. Officially announces his portrayal of Black Adam with an official release date of December 22nd, 2021.
I think we all kind of knew that was going to happen.
Yeah,
last year there was that image of him.
It was
being
expected,
Black Adam.
but the awesome thing is the promo poster. Did you guys see the promo poster on this? It's Jim Lee with a collaboration on Boss Logic, who's very big in terms of like digital media and kind of crossover stuff. It's just fantastic, and it's interesting. I don't know if any of you guys read the actual post by The Rock though, and he's like, I've always been attracted to heroes. I loved Superman growing up, but as I grew up, I realized I wasn't a Superman type character. I was rebellious. I did things my own way, and he goes, and that's why I'm going to be the Black Adam. So I don't think Black Adam's necessarily going to be a villain.
Doesn't sound like
it. I think he's going to be a villain, but he doesn't do things the traditional way.
He'll be an anti-hero.
Exactly.
He's not a Superman character. He's more of a bizarro Superman character.
I think this is what the DC universe desperately needs, is the star power of his caliber. He has a huge fan base. I think he can pull off this character specifically well, and I look forward to hopefully him reinvigorating the DC universe.
If anyone has read Jeff Johns' run on JSA, it's some of his earlier comic work. Black Adam is one of the heroes on the JSA, and it's a really cool character study. He's a really cool character.
He is interesting. I've read a little bit of him, and he doesn't come off as a complete villain. He's just, he does things the way he thinks they should be done.
Yep.
Cool stuff.
But that flows into a lot of the stuff that's been going in the DC world. We've all been seeing this hashtag release the SnyderCut. So for some reason, people think that this Snyder Cut is going to make this Justice League movie great. I don't buy into that.
It wasn't good already?
I don't. Now I'm on. I might be in the minority of this. I didn't think Justice League was horrific. I thought it was better than Batman vs Superman. I thought it was a hell of a lot better than Suicide Squad.
You're not getting arguments on me on those. I think my review after that movie was it was very not good.
You know. I think as
Very mediocre, I think was what I said.
And I think that's a good point to make. I think Superman really shined in that movie, and that's probably why I enjoyed it. I think Superman's effect on that movie really stood out, and as a Superman fan, I appreciated that.
Okay.
But we've gotten a lot of support. Zack Snyder obviously wants to see this, but we've gotten stars like Ben Affleck, Gal Gadot, Jason Momoa, Ray Fisher, and Joe Manganiello. All posting their release of Snyder Cut. I mean, I don't know if this is going to happen.
Think about these actors. They spent so much time making the original movie and then doing all those reshoots. They signed up to do one version of a movie and another one was released. I don't blame them necessarily for wanting to see what the original vision was supposed to be and get people's reaction. And it seems like there's enough of a demand for it for Warner Brothers. They probably could make some money releasing this thing.
And that's why I don't know why they wouldn't just do it. I mean, obviously, like I wouldn't go through maybe the trouble of going through theaters, but just release it.
No, I mean,
people will pay.
And
for
how
it.
much really difference could it be? That's what I don't understand.
Oh, it's a lot different. It's a lot different. There's a whole reason that most of Superman's scenes were reshot, where they had to do that horrible paste over on his upper lip and lower lip to cover his mustache and beard, because he was filming Mission Impossible 6.
3 or 6, yeah.
6 at the time?
3.
6, nah. 3 was the one where he...
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I love those movies. But, like, I don't necessarily disagree with them wanting them to release it. I don't necessarily think it's going to be a great movie. I just think you're going to get the original director's vision on it.
Yeah, I mean, it's... I think it's fine. I mean, Zack Snyder didn't blow me away with Batman vs Superman. I didn't expect him to do that with Justice League. But, I mean, maybe it'll be a different movie. Maybe it'll make more sense. But I guess it's going to be wait and see at this point.
Some of the issues with that I had with Batman vs Superman could also have been that they were trying to lay the groundwork for so much other stuff for future movies. That could have been editorial driven or like studio driven, and that interrupted with what he wanted to do. I didn't I have issues and bones to pick with Batman vs Superman, but I think as a sequel to Man of Steel, it does work, and I like the position that we see Batman start off in.
Yeah.
But we're gonna get off that topic now,
but we should stay on the Superman topic.
I'm fine with staying on the Man of Steel topic
because exciting kind of stuff that has come out is Henry Cavill is not quite done being Super yet.
I hope he's
according to him.
I hope so.
To quote him specifically, is the cape is in the closet.
Gotcha.
He told Men's Health in its December cover story that it's still mine. I'm not going to sit quietly in the dark as all the stuff is going on. I've not given up the role. There's a lot I have to give to Superman yet, a lot of storytelling to do, a lot of real true depths of the honest character I haven't gotten into. I want to reflect the comic books, which is very exciting to me specifically.
Yep.
That's important to me, he said, and there's a lot more justice to be done for Superman. The status is you'll see.
Yeah.
And I feel like he's been kind of teetering this line for a while, that ominous, months, almost maybe a year ago, with him showing the Superman toy in his Instagram post, has suggested, I'm not done doing this yet. I mean, there's been no answer on either side. I mean, he's the guy to do it at this point. I don't think they should scrap him. And I guess, we said, we'll have to see.
I thought he said he was done.
I don't think he ever said that. It might have been more of those
stories,
those websites you've been on.
Yeah,
those comic news websites.
No,
those dark web websites.
there was definitely talk a while back. I'm actually going to back JJ up on this, where it seemed like he was done, or at least the studio might have been done with him.
Yeah.
But if he's still making noise and he still wants to do it, it sounds like maybe we'll get a Man of Steel too.
Yeah, they need to keep him. It's like, I mean, there are certain people that just fit the character. Like Christopher Reeve. As like, he was great back in the original Superman.
Is he still
movies.
available for the sequel?
Oh, that's
Too
that's
soon.
not
I'm
right.
sorry. I love you, Chris.
Cavill. I think he fits that perfectly.
You know what
in
I
it.
like about him too is he wants to be Superman.
Yeah,
I
I
think
think you need someone
you
who's
can
going to
tell,
be
like,
excited about it.
I don't think Ben Affleck wanted to be Batman. There's characters who are playing, there's actors who are playing these characters, and it just doesn't seem like they really want to do it. And I get this vibe like he likes being Superman. He's excited by being Superman. He wants to be Superman. And that
Superman.
yeah,
Dude, swole.
yeah.
Yeah, they need to keep him
little
and
tiny
just
now.
roll with it.
It's a little on the short side.
Is it really?
Yeah, I met him. I was like, "Where's the rest of Superman?"
Wait, how tall is he?
I think he might be 6 foot.
All right.
I don't even know if that's true. Wow. But yeah.
So he's
All
tall
right.
for Hollywood.
Yes. So we have a fun, super cool segment for tonight that Bojo had the idea of doing. So Bojo, why don't you kick off this description of what we're doing?
So
6'1", just to add it.
That's Hollywood.
6'1".
That's Hollywood Lies. I'll show you the picture of him standing next to me.
So tonight's main feature, the main thing we're going to talk about tonight is this saying that every comic book is someone's first comic. And a lot of times people writing comics, or at least they used to, they'd always try and set it up that anybody who was picking up the issue for the first time could kind of understand it. And that got me thinking, what was everyone's first issue? And I know we did our origins. You guys did your origins in the first episode of the podcast. When I jumped in for the Batman episode, I know I did my origin. So it might be a little repetitive for some of you. But I just wanted to kick around the idea of, what's everyone's first comic? What is everyone's first memory of comics? And let's kind of talk about how people jump into comics these days and maybe what you'd recommend, right?
Absolutely.
So that being said, we're going to break it down into smaller steps. Like, what was the first book everyone else, like, what was the first book everyone remembers reading? Like, what was your first comic?
JJ.
All right. So, it took me a little bit to think about this, and I'm gonna have to go with the first book that I remember.
Okay.
Reading. Like I probably read books before this, but there was a series called the Saga of Crystar. I remember living in a town called Levittown when I first moved back to New York from California. There was this comic book shop. It wasn't even really, I don't even know if you would call it a shop. It was more of like a kiosk in the middle of the mall there. It was the Nassau Mall. It's no longer there. And what was great about this was, you had this, it was a big, it wasn't even a kiosk. It had glass walls. You got to go in. It was like a shop, but it was in the middle of the mall. And they had spinner racks. They had the racks on the.
They had malls when you were kids?
Yeah. The arcade was right across the way from it, so it was like you had the arcade there, and then, the comic book shop there.
Excellent placement.
It was great placement.
Smart placement.
I remember picking up Crystar, the first episode of this book.
Did it come with the first issue?
It came, yeah. It was the first issue. It was the first issue, and it was cool because it was a cool cover. It to me it looked like this was back in 1983. This book came out, and if you ever see the cover of this,
A year before I was born. Go ahead.
there you go. the cover of the book looks kind of like Star Wars. He's Crystar. He's got the sword up in the air, and
So do you remember what it was about?
yeah, I mean it was Crystar. It was a world where you had two brothers, fighting over basically fighting over the kingdom of Crystar. His name was Crystar,
Yeah.
but the one brother stabs Crystar in the back. To save him, he had to be transformed. A wizard came and had to transform him into Crystar, which is this crystalline warrior. An evil
Sounds like
wizard.
they stole this a little bit from He-Man. I'm not gonna
Probably. And then you had the evil wizard transform the other brother that stabbed Crystar into a molten man. So you had the molten people, and then you had Crystar. So it was a cool, obviously dark and light
So
balance.
interesting question. What drew this to you as a kid? Do you remember liking it as a kid?
I
and why?
I did like it because it was different. At the time it was just a different type of book that I've ever read. It wasn't a superhero book.
Right.
It wasn't this was a Marvel book, so it wasn't a Spider-Man. It wasn't a DC. It wasn't Superman. It was just something different. And I remember the cover being really bright red and that yellow that I love.
It was very Frank Frazetta looking, right?
Yeah. And I like the art inside of it. I think that what drew me too. I couldn't tell you who did any of the art. I still have these books. I don't have the originals that I bought back in the day, but I did rebuy them. But it was 11 issues, I remember. And the other thing this book opened me up to other characters. This series went parallel to the Marvel universe. So we had tie-ins of Nightcrawler showed up, Alpha Flight showed up, and then who was the other guy? Doctor Strange.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Was in this. So you had these characters who. What's going on over there?
No, nothing. I'm just reading through Bojo's first book.
Oh. So you had these other characters, and that's what got me into Nightcrawler. After that, I think I read this 4 or 5 part miniseries.
4-issue miniseries in the
Nightcrawler, and that's
Yeah.
that's when he was a pirate and everything else like that.
Yeah.
But Crystar, what was good? They also Remco. I'm over here, guys.
We're listening.
Remco came out with a toy line of Crystar, so that I got to buy those. So
I think the comic line was actually directly tied to the toy line
Yep.
that was coming out.
Yep. So and I still have these books. I loved them. I still read them to this day. I can reread this series over and over again.
So you have reread it. Do you get like the same feeling?
Always,
that you had
yeah.
when you read it? Yeah,
because it
that's
also
cool.
brings back memories of I read this.
Nostalgia, huh?
I read this when I was a kid. It brings me back memories of the place where I bought them from, and when these came out, I didn't know books came out when they came out and everything, and the anticipation of buying issue 2 and issue 3.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool being 1983. I was what 13 years old, 12, 13 years old. So it was pretty cool to this is probably the book that stands most in my mind.
Cool.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Very cool.
Very cool. What about you, Dungeon Master?
Well, I had to really think about this because there were quite a few that I remember reading. My cousin lives upstate New York. I would always go through her comic book collections, but I just remember one in particular, and Bojo had told me. What'd you say? It was the DC Blue Ribbon Comics?
I think it was like Blue Ribbon Digest.
Yeah, there was one with Superman Red and Superman Blue, which I just thought that was like really cool at the time. And I pulled up the page here. Basically Superman. They had pieces of kryptonite that he wanted to. Expand his intelligence or his mental capacity or whatever. So they had a little thing reminiscent from Back to the Future, where Doc had the mind reading thing strapped to his head. He's sitting here and he's got it on his head here, and something goes wrong and the whole place kind of blows up, and then all of a sudden you have a Superman Red and you have a Superman Blue. They kind of split.
So that's the original
and
Superman Red, Superman Blue.
Yeah, they're both like they're identical twins, but they're like really super intelligent now, and they go out and they basically solve things, and they basically have 2 separate lives. I forget which one it was. I think it was Superman Red. Had his relationship with Lois Lane, and Superman Blue had his relationship with Lana Lang, and they both had their families and they had kids and stuff like that. So it was actually kind of cool. But some of the other ones in that same time frame was the Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen series. There were so many that came into publication, but one issue, the World of 1,000 Olsons, and it was just they was sort of comical. It had Superman and Jimmy Olsen. Jimmy was always getting into like troubles, and Superman was always like bailing him out and helping him and stuff like that. So it was a nice change to the regular Superman comic book line.
This is I just looked up the issue while you were talking there. It's the best of DC Blue Ribbon Digest number 19.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, 1979.
Oh no, it was from 81. It was published in 81.
Oh.
I think a lot of these were reprints, but this looks like it might have been, I don't know if it was new or not. It's there's a cover by Ross Andrew and inks by Dick Giordano.
Oh, I like Ross Andrew.
What's that you do?
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like it seems like all pencils by Kurt Swan, which is pretty good. And then there's a Kurt Schaffenberger story in there too.
Yeah, it was a pretty good story.
Yeah, they're cool.
All right, I'm gonna go into mine. We're gonna save Bojo for last.
Whoa.
So I had a lot of trouble because the early books that I remembered, I know for sure there was 2 what ifs, and then very early on, I remember reading the trade paperback for Death of Superman. But as I was going through the research, I realized it had to be What If 31, 1991. What if Spider-Man had kept his cosmic powers?
What if?
And I don't know so I remember buying this from kind of like almost like, it wasn't really a news, it was kind of like a corner store. Okay. It was like mixed in with magazines, and I was probably in the store, my mom was buying something, I was like, hey, I want this comic book over here. She's like, fine, whatever, just get it. But I didn't even know, I didn't know what a what if was. Even to this day, funny enough, I have never read the issue where he gets cosmic powers at all. So I didn't even know. So I've read all of Amazing Spider-Man, and I've read the tie-ins that any Amazing Spider-Man story has had, but I haven't read like Spider-Man on its own.
I'm pretty sure it's Spectacular Spider-Man.
I think it is, yeah. But it's funny. So I remember as a kid, there's this risque scene where Spider-Man in his cosmic suit kind of pulls on Mary Jane's shirt, and I'm like, whoa.
Oh man.
You see a little size something going on, and like she winds up putting on his original spider suit. She goes, oh man, it's so weird, I feel so powerful. And then she says, I feel so kinky. I was like, whoa, I didn't even know what that meant, but it was
I think I like it.
Yeah, it was an interesting first story to read. Shortly after that, I don't know if it was the same time I bought it, but so this is from volume 2 of the What If series. One of the most memorable early books that I have is What If 50, though. It's What If Hulk had killed Wolverine. It's this silver and bows cover.
I've seen that
It
cover.
is awesome.
pretty wild.
I'm pretty sure I have both of these books somewhere. I don't know where they are, but I am going to eventually dig them out. And as well as the trade paperback of the Superman. But it was cool. I was trying to see if it was on the Marvel Unlimited app to read both of these quickly before tonight, but they're not. So because I don't know exactly where my issues are, I
Damn
couldn't
you,
reread
Marvel
them.
Unlimited.
But I'm sure I would have enjoyed them had I reread them. But it was cool. It was good. It was good reads as a kid.
Nice.
All right, Bojo.
So my first issue, so I remember actually my dad having.
No, you had a lot of issues.
Well, I mean,
let's get to your first
that
comic book
is
issue.
for sure. No, my first comic issue is it was given to me for an Easter one year by my aunt and my uncle. It was Batman and Robin Adventures 5, and I still have the issue. I gave the rest of the series to an ex-girlfriend's younger sister at some point in my past life. But I saved this one copy, and it is the most beat-up copy of anything I own from the 1990s. I'm looking at it right now. I have it in my hands, and it is bent. It is well read. The corners have small stress fractures. The spine is ripped near the top staple. There's multiple bends. It is just
definitely
well
color
enjoyed.
breaking, sir.
You call that beat up?
Oh,
I got to
yeah.
show you some beat up comics.
Oh man, this is beat up for me. There's so much surface wear on this, but man, did I read the heck out of this. So this is Batman and Robin Adventures 5. The cover is a red cover. Batman and Robin are outside of a window. Joker's inside, and he's shooting outwards at them. And he's the only thing in color on it. And I remember this being the coolest comic ever when I was a kid. I loved the 90s Batman TV series. And
Who didn't?
yeah. I reread this one a few years back when I was rereading the whole series. This is probably the weakest issue in the whole series. I have no idea why I wound up continuing reading comics after this. It's written by Ty Templeton. Ty, I love your stuff. I love your art. I don't love this issue, bud. And it's artwork. The pencils by a guy named Tim Harkins, which, looking into it, I think this might be his only penciled book.
Okay.
He's like a letterer and an inker. I looked him up. He's worked on a ton of stuff in the late 80s, early 90s.
Maybe there's a reason
I
for
don't
that.
love the Joker.
Yeah, it's really exaggerated. He's got great line weight. For a series that used to be like really well known for how terrific it is at telling a story, it's just okay. Pacing's just okay. Characters seem a little off model. Like, it's weird. And it seems like the entire book hinges on a banana peel joke.
Fair.
But it was like related to something I was interested in at the time. It was a done in one, which I think is really important. Like, I read the beginning of the issue and the issue ended and there was a whole story right there. And I just happened to see the following issue, that little next issue teaser at the back of the book where Batman fires Robin. That really whet my appetite. And when I saw it in Genovese, yes, I'm showing my age. When I saw it in Genovese.
Is it Eckerd now still?
Oh, God. I had to have it, and it just wound up being like a monthly thing where every month I would show up at Genovese and pick up a book off of the rack.
That's fantastic.
Oh my God, there's
that's
an
great.
advertisement on the back cover for Batman Forever.
The pay-per-view, and also for Six Flags.
Oh my goodness.
It's that's one of the things that I regret about reading digitally is I really wish they would put the ads in
Dude,
there.
I love the old ads.
All right, but we spent a lot of time on that, and we're really burning the midnight oil.
Yeah,
here.
we are.
So the next thing we kind of wanted to get into is what do you guys think it's difficult to get into comics now as a new reader? Like if someone so me, I got into 2013. I know you got into it a lot earlier. Some of you guys. I mean, I read here and there, but for like someone who's like wet behind the ears, walks into a comic book shop, is it easier or harder for them now than it used to be?
I think it's easier. There are so many titles out there, so many different stories, and it's like a lot of times I'll just go through and I'll look at a cover and I'm like, that's pretty cool, and then I'll pick it up and it's like something that I never heard of. Perfect example, Chew by Comics Tribe. I'm sorry. Oh, that was wrong. That was something else. But yeah, that is a great story. Chum.
Oh.
By Comics Tribe. It was just 4 issues. I just picked it up. The cover is all red and black, and I looked at it, and Jim and I were scuba divers, so and we went shark diving. So Chum. I was like, okay, and I read it. Didn't know anything about it. It was basically some sort of like mystery noir, like in like a tropical island, and I just read it, and I'm like, interesting. So I just went and I picked up the other 3, and then when it was over, and I was like, wait a minute, it's like, I want more. It's like, I didn't realize that it was just a miniseries, but like I said, it's like there are so many weird titles out there. It's easy to pick one up and get hooked on something.
See, I think it's the opposite. I think because there's too much out there, people get confused. I don't know.
Well, I was gonna say because of like the digital medium now, so you have like Marvel Unlimited, you have
and that's the other
DC
thing.
universe. So my problem is I'm very much a completist. I'm OCD. I need to know everything that's going on. Now, a lot of people aren't that way.
Yeah.
So when I got into reading comics, it's like, if I'm gonna read Amazing Spider-Man, like I don't want like there to be an Easter egg or like something like referring to something that happened in the past that I wasn't aware of.
Something that happened.
So
like
this Marvel
5 episodes
Unlimited
ago.
thing comes out, and I'm like, I can read. And when I got into it 2013 again. They were issue 700 just came out of Amazing Spider-Man.
Yep.
Within like maybe a little more than 2 years, I read 1 through 700 and on. And it got to the point where I was current and mentioned, and that doesn't include anything that crossed over. So like I read the crossovers, not the whole issues, but like if there was a one-parter, like I read all of Maximum Carnage,
Right.
or all of the Clone Saga. Oh god.
Craven's Last Hunt.
Yeah, oh my God, Craven's
So
Last Hunt.
good.
So good. But it's just like, if you are that type of person, you can do that. Like there's a medium out there, so you can read the whole thing if you have the time. But to the same point, I think they do a decent job. And another thing that we're gonna bring up is like, a lot of comics in Marvel I know does this. They do catch you up. They do give you a little blurb about what happened recently. Now, a thing that I would suggest that I like, I don't know if any of the comics does this. If included with that, if they did a little bit of like a panel thing where they show you like major shots, like maybe like one pager.
So they used to do that in some of them as like a recap. They'd have a few panels from previous issues.
Like the first page or two.
Yeah.
Would it get confusing? Is that why they stopped?
I also know that Bendis has been doing the Marvel recap style stuff in Young Justice, but he's not been doing a breakdown where he writes a recap. He almost does like a splash panel with a slight recap to get everyone ready to go for the rest of the issue.
Right.
Marvel does those recap pages.
Yeah.
Where like if you're jumping in mid-story, they write up something for
but
you.
But a lot of times it only helps to like that storyline.
Yep.
So like if you're jumping in on like, let's say issue like 25, you might know what's going on in the last 3 or 4 issues, but it doesn't take you to like where they've been in the last 25.
Yeah.
Or, obviously, 800 or 900 that, Spider-Man's almost up to. Like, do you guys in general find like those recap pages helpful?
I skip them.
I skip them.
I do too, especially if I've been reading the book.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when I read, I read like in bundles. So I literally just read the last one. So like I don't need a recap of what I just read.
Yeah.
Right.
But I mean, if people are reading week to week, I can see where like occasionally I'll be like, if there was a decent amount of time between when I read it, I was like, I'll read it quickly to see what it was. Like, oh yeah, that's what happened last issue kind of thing. I think they are helpful to a degree. I don't think you can jump in the middle of what's going on and really engulf yourself in what's happening.
So I always loved when they would do kind of recaps in the dialogue. Listen, jumping into a comic book, maybe this is just the teacher in me. I love figuring out what's going on just from context clues. Who's this character? What's this character's motivation? What do they want? How do they impact the story? What the heck's going on? And you suss it out. You figure it out.
Yeah.
My first issue of Batman, and like I'm the Batman guy, right? Like I have a big long run from 1978 through now, like complete every single issue. My first issue of Batman was Batman 584. I just jumped in. I just picked it off the rack. It looked cool. It was a weird cover. It's an Ed Brubaker series before Ed Brubaker was anybody. And like it's randomly like these kids were running around with a video camcorder trying to get a shot of the Batman, who is this urban legend. And like context clues. Batman's a urban legend. Apparently people don't know he exists. He's not on camera. And like parts of that issue just wound up being like, all right, so this is the status quo for this character. Yeah. And I could just continue on from there.
I mean, 100% too with like the bigger characters. There's already so much out there about the characters. You can pick up like who this is, who that is, like villains. Like there's been how many iterations of the Joker, how many iterations of Riddler and Two-Face and all these characters at this point. I think with those characters, it's certainly a lot easier. But there's so much behind these characters too. And like one of the reasons I chose to read Spider-Man as opposed to like Superman, who I'm a huge Superman fan, is I only had to go back to the 60s as opposed to like the 30s. Yeah. I was like, that's just it. And a lot of those, even the early stuff in the 60s, they were tough reads. Like it took me like a long time to get through those early issues. By the time like maybe the late 60s, early 70s, I started flying through them. Like I could read 2 or 3 in a day, where it was taking me 2 days to maybe read some of those earlier issues, because they would do like 9-box panels and you'd have so much dialogue in each panel. Yeah. And back then, you wanted to get your bang for your buck. You're paying 12-15 cents for these books. Yep. It's just like, hey, that's a lot of money to a little kid. It's like, this is going to be like 60 pages or 30 pages or 40 pages. So, it got a lot easier as the time went on for reading those.
I'm going to throw one more thing that helps new readers these days.
Let's hear it.
The internet.
100%. And
Wikipedia.
I won't lie to you. Yep. I did that a lot too. There was occasionally issues that I weren't able to read, and I was like, I just said, hey, what's the synopsis of this issue? What happened? And it kind of gave me an idea, and I moved on from there.
One of my favorite things, and they don't do it in comics anymore, those little editor caption boxes.
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
like call back to a specific issue.
Yeah.
Yes.
At the very end.
They
I
do.
still do that.
And very rarely, very
Chip
occasionally.
Zdarsky's big on those.
Oh man,
Yeah.
I love those.
Yeah, back in
I
issue
see-
117,
Yes.
True Believer.
I see that a lot in I'm collecting the Harley Quinn series. It's like I see that all the time. You
That's
know? It's like,
awesome.
and it makes reference not only to that series, but it also goes back and it makes reference to either the crossover or another one where it's in there. So I think they're kind of bringing that back, especially when there's a long story arc. And they kind of make reference to something, you know, you see it as like, see Aquaman crossover, you know, blah, blah, blah.
That would get me actually hunting in back issue bins when I was younger. Being like, what? Related to the story that I'm enjoying currently? I must buy it.
It's like, oh, wait a minute, what happened in the Aquaman, you know, that she was part of, you know, and then you want to go read that and you kind of get,
No one
you know,
wants to
caught
read
into
Aquaman.
that. Yeah, no one cares about a man who talks to fish.
All right, on that note, so let's say
Love you, JJ.
on the off chance that there's somebody listening to this right now who's never read a comic book before.
Okay.
What's some stuff that's on the rack today that you would be like, hey, this would be a great place to start off. I would recommend reading this to a new reader.
Ooh.
Right?
I do have answers to this. If anyone doesn't,
I'm a big Star Wars fan. I mean,
that was one of my answers.
the Star Wars, preferably any of the Darth Vader stuff.
100%.
Anything with
That
Darth
was-
Vader in the title,
Yeah.
Yes.
amazing.
Is that
Yes.
currently coming out? Darth Vader title currently out on the racks?
Yeah, they've done a couple of volumes.
I know.
think there's
Which one?
so they did like 1 and 2, and now it's Vader Down. Is
Vader
that the current
Down,
series?
and then there's quite a few of them.
There's Target Vader.
Target
his,
Vader is the one
Target-
now.
His stuff's so
Vader,
good. He's
Dark
such-
Visions.
He's such a that's the current one, Dark Visions.
Yeah.
He's such a rich character, which anything he's in it, and he doesn't even say much most of the time. It's just his
No.
presence,
Yeah.
even in the panel of a comic book.
Yeah,
It's just-
Target Vader now. It's
Yeah.
amazing. I mean,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
it's anything Star Wars. I think it's amazing right now.
I
It's,
100% agree with
And
you. I
the
have that
best
on my
thing
list.
about the whole Star Wars series is that there are so many individual little storybooks. I mean, you got and they're all like either between 4 and 6 issues. You know, you got like Han Solo, you got Lando, you got the Princess Leia,
Some of
Darth
those-
Vader's
some
got
of those
a
are older
whole
at
bunch
this
of little
point.
ones. Yeah, some of them are a little bit older, but then again, you got so many different longer story ones. Like you got the regular Darth Vader series, and you got the regular Star Wars series, and the one that I really love is the Dr. Aphra series, which is still going on.
And you feel like
It's
a new reader can jump into that and have no issue like picking it up?
I don't think they no.
Because I know they do the recaps in there, and you have like a general idea of these characters
Their
from
recap
outside other media.
their recap is the scroll that they have on the first page. I
Yeah,
mean, that's
yeah. It's pretty easy to get caught up
Caught
on.
up
And
on
the
it.
reason I say that too is you're also not like, even if you wanted to get in it from the beginning, you're only going back to like maybe 2015,
Yeah, you're not-
2016. So you're
Yeah.
I mean, granted, this series is 75 issues behind, but we're in the digital world. If you buy Marvel Unlimited, like you're gonna get up to like the 67 issues. So by the time they get to 75, you'll be able to read the whole issue,
Right.
the whole
Yeah.
series.
But could you pick up the most recent issue and just be... I mean, you could always go back, but
Yeah.
with that current issue on the rack,
Yeah.
be good.
Yeah, because like now they've got what is it, Destination Hoth. So that's a
Yes.
couple. That's a couple of issues. So they do break them up into segments.
It's
Yeah.
story arcs.
Yeah,
Yeah,
story arcs,
chapters. I like
So-
to call them chapters.
So I don't think it's that difficult to pick up what's going on in the story beforehand
Okay.
of where you
Yeah.
started out.
I
But
actually,
then some of them, most of them, they're short. They're short. They're short, 1 to 4 issues.
yeah, they're miniseries.
So
yeah.
there's probably more of those miniseries than there are longer
The regular
series.
series,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
So,
there's a
I
ton
would
of
have to
them out there.
agree. Yeah.
That's
So-
all I have. Sorry.
So, two that I really like that I would personally recommend, Superman Rebirth. Like granted, like, from starting at this point. So Rebirth was about, what, a year ago at this point? Longer?
Are you talking about the Bendis titles?
No, from going on. Oh, yeah, from going forward, from Bendis kind of on.
If you're starting with Bendis' run, that's about a year.
Yeah. I mean, I
Maybe a
think
little more.
Even if you don't want to go back, I think there's been a good amount of stuff. I mean, the recaps might get a little confusing with some of this Red Cloud stuff and stuff like that.
Right.
I lost a little bit of there, but starting from the beginning, it started really good. Like especially early on, I think Pete Tomasi was involved. During
Pete Tomasi did the Superman Rebirth where it was him, it was his wife, it was Lois and John Kent.
Yeah.
The beginning was really confusing because they were trying to tweak continuity and fix continuity.
Right, which I think is helpful to probably a new reader too, because it's just like
I think that stuff was confusing.
I didn't find it confusing though.
I liked the overall stuff. I think their solution to bring the Lois and Clark that were the older versions to be like fleshed into the universe. It was weird and I think overly complicated.
I didn't find it the same way, but I can see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
But that's one of my recommendations. My second one, also saying on the DC side, I had Immortal Hulk on there, but that's kind of like on the lower end. Batman White Knight series.
Yeah, 100% agree.
I'll give you that.
That, they're into their sequel now where it's Curse of the White Knight. It's just, you have Batman knowledge going into it. I mean, assuming everyone who's going to read Batman knows who Batman at least is. You can go into that. You can jump into it. You can read it. I mean, I wouldn't suggest reading like issue 5 without reading the rest of them.
Right.
They're short enough where you can just read the whole thing and enjoy it. But I think, someone could jump in. They're fairly recent. I would obviously suggest reading the White Knight before Curse of the White Knight.
Right, but you don't need to.
You don't necessarily, because they do a really good job of recapping what
Absolutely.
happened. Yeah. And the stories don't really rely on each other either. And it's another thing where you don't have to have this huge backlog of, Batman knowledge to really enjoy them either. But those were my recommendations.
I would highly second the Batman White Knight stuff.
Yeah.
Yes.
You don't have to read the first miniseries. I love the first miniseries. There are a couple of clunky spots in there in that first one, but the artwork's fantastic. The overall story is great. And one of those things, I just think you can jump into the Curse of the White Knight. I think you can jump into Curse of the White Knight in any issue at this point and still be fine and still understand what's going on. I think that's a great recommendation.
Absolutely.
I've been slowly whittling down my titles. So of what I've been seeing on the stands, I'd have a harder time to recommend what's on the stands currently. One of the things that I love, I'm a Batman guy, I wouldn't recommend the new Batman title, the current Batman title, to a new reader. There's Tom King's run it's on issue 83. You picked it up today.
Yeah.
Think about how confusing that would be to explain to a new reader what the heck is going on.
Yeah, there was a lot going on.
It's an 83 issue story.
Batman. Yeah.
So it's one of those titles where it's a title I love. It's something that I think is great, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend it to a new reader.
As a whole, it's good.
Yeah.
But it's not.
It requires so much back reading, and you get completely lost jumping in on the newer issues.
It's not very reader friendly to jump in.
No,
because you're like, wait a minute, it's like, what's going on? Because you got to go back so far to realize where he's been, what he's been through, and what put him there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. A lot of the titles I've been enjoying have recently ended, or are ending. I love. And I know you guys are going to groan. TC, I know you're going to groan. I love Unbeatable Squirrel Girl. 58 issues, I think, in total. 58? No.
But can you jump right in issue 47?
You really could. It really is a title that feels like it's from a different time.
I'll be honest with you. I did read the first few issues. I was intrigued in the beginning.
Yeah.
But as it went on, I just realized it wasn't for me.
Which is fine.
I never touched it.
Yeah.
I find it highly enjoyable. I think it's great for all ages.
But you also realize this is coming from someone who enjoys reading
SpongeBob.
I'm devastated that SpongeBob was canceled at issue 85.
Yeah.
I was devastated the day that Steven Hillenburg died.
Total of 58 issues.
Yeah. Because it's 50 in the current series, and then there's 8 in the previous.
In the first one.
Yeah. I mean, that's a heck of a run for a book these days. Pretty much unchanged creative team. What's her name?
Karen.
Ryan North, Erica Henderson.
Erica Henderson did the first 30 or 34 issues, give or take, in the current series, and then the issues previously, and then Derek Charm took over. But it's all Ryan North writing it. It's a pretty solid run, and it's one of those things where you can jump in now, and I think you can still enjoy it. That's me.
Did we all give our current recommendations at this point?
I think we did. I also talked a little bit about how Batman would not be a good reason.
The current Batman story.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, Batman's kind of in the same kind of pool as Spider-Man, where there's just so much going on, so much backstory, so much history ingrained in him. It was just, I don't suggest jumping into those blind.
I would say you could jump in on the current Detective Comics stuff.
Yeah.
Especially, like, any issue recently, I think you could jump in and be fine. There was a little bit of a weird story, but it was a throwback story with Deadshot, like, hunting Bruce Wayne on an island after they've crashed on, like, a plane
Yeah,
crash.
Sounds like an episode.
There was a
of
couple of other ones.
A little bit. It's a throwback issue. It's a throwback style story. I thought it was kind of fun, but I feel like it might be off-putting to a new reader. But the new Mr. Freeze stuff, I think, would be enticing.
So, I mean, aside from like a single issue story, there's so many like amazing graphic novels out there.
Yes.
Like, I feel like me personally, I think that'd be a good place to start for a new reader. What are some of the graphic novels, new or old, that you guys think would be good for, a newcomer?
Ooh, depends on what they want.
Red Sun. I'm kidding.
Red Sun requires a little bit of knowledge of Superman, but
That's
I think
true.
at the same time, you could enjoy that story regardless.
Yes, agreed.
I think that's an easy enjoyment. There's a ton of stuff out there. What would I recommend? Batman Year One. I'm a Batman guy. I'm always going to go to Batman on this. Batman Year One.
I'm not a Batman guy, and I got 2 Batman stories on here. I feel like Batman graphic novels are among the best graphic novels they have out there. Yeah. The 2 that I had, we did this for book club, our first book club, Batman the Long Halloween. Maybe
Solid.
one of the best Batman stories that I've read. And I think it's good because, especially for a new reader, you get introduced to all these different characters. You get a little bit of everyone.
I'm not looking at your list. You recommended Batman Hush as your second.
I didn't, actually.
Really?
No, yeah, and I feel like Batman Hush is a really great story, but I don't know necessarily. I feel like there's a little hint of stuff in there where you need to know a little bit
It's
more.
a long book too.
Yeah.
And that's big.
it's-
And I don't know if a newcomer would have that kind of commitment.
Okay.
Another story I did have on there for Batman that was a Killing Joke, and that would be more for an adult reader.
Right,
too.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Like I would recommend that, but it's a great Batman story. One of my it might be my favorite Batman story. I would actually love to eventually maybe do that as a book club book as well. But I cut you off completely because you were giving recommendations.
It's all good. It depends on what people like.
Yeah.
Superman for all seasons, to jump off of your Long Halloween sentiment. That's also
Absolutely.
Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale, and I think that's one of the finest character studies of Superman.
Agreed.
And I think that's a good, solid, 4-issue, done in one sitting graphic novel that anyone who even remotely cares about the character can really enjoy that.
I mean, I remember reading, like I said earlier, Death of Superman as a kid too, and that was the first Superman story I ever saw, and I knew Superman from like movies and like cartoons, and like you tell me he's dying, and I might not have known who every character is who showed up to his wedding, but I got the idea, I knew what was going on, and it was like, oh man, he's dead.
Look at the Justice League at the time. Who were those losers?
I had no idea who half of them were. I was like, I don't know who that
Booster
guy
Gold.
is or who this guy is.
Blue Beetle.
I was like, I remember seeing who's the guy with the gold shield. He's like a JSA guy.
Guardian?
No,
Dr. Fate?
Dr. Fate. I was like, I don't know who this guy is either. There's so many people I've never even heard of in my life. But I mean,
Bloodwind?
yeah.
So
I was like, I was fine.
Are we just talking about graphic novels or?
Yeah,
Yeah, at
something
this
you would
point,
recommend
yeah.
to a first-time reader.
Yeah.
Someone who's either just getting into the medium, something that they
Kingdom
might
Come
like.
is also on there.
I think that's too much for a newcomer.
Really?
Yeah, I read that a little bit further in when I was
Maybe
reading
I
comics
had
for
read a
while.
little bit at that point, but I felt like that it gave you enough to know what was going on.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I just think that it expects you to understand who the characters are. The big reveal at the end with the big red cheese. Like that's a big reveal, and if you have no idea who that character is, it's
Yeah.
lost on you. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, there are books that I think expect you to know certain things, and there are other ones where it's like you can kind of jump in and check it out.
I get what you're saying.
That was a spoiler alert too for everybody that did not hear.
My last one, quickly, Craven's the Last Hunt.
The book came out in 1996. There's an advertisement in my first comic book for Kingdom Come. If you haven't read Kingdom Come between 1996 and now, it's okay to be spoiled.
I didn't even know if Craven's Last Hunt was made into graphic novel form, but
Totally
it was
is.
a story. Yeah, it was fantastic. One of the best Spider-Man story arcs I've ever read.
Okay.
That's it for me. I'll stop stealing other people's time.
You know, I dug on the graphic novel side. I dug the Earth 1 books.
Oh, that's a really good point.
You know, you had the Superman Earth 1, Batman Earth 1, Wonder Woman Earth 1, Teen Titans, Green Lantern, and Earth 1. I like those novels. I have every single one, both digitally and the first printings of those.
You know what's really cool is Marvel did season ones right around the same time that DC was doing those Earth 1 books. And those are all basically continuity free.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to go back further, the Marvel Ultimate line started in 2000, 2001 as a response to the movies that came out, like the Spider-Man and the X-Men movies. They were like, they looked at their continuity and they're like, this is a mess. No one can understand. No one can get into it. And they restarted everything brand new, number one, their own universe. It was a great jumping in spot for new fans who had no idea what the heck was going on in the main books and the main titles.
Yeah. I dug when those came out and I read them, I was like, this is great.
Bruce, do you have any recommendations on the graphic novel side?
Graphic novel side.
Sorry, Dungeon Master.
Yeah, that's all right. I don't really collect the graphic novels. I like the individual comics, and I mean I haven't really like gone back to like the oldest. The oldest one was Red Sun, where I got I was like, all right, I got the first one. I didn't realize it was one of three, so I was like, all right, am I gonna get the trade, or am I gonna get number 2 and number 3? So I went with number 2 and number 3.
But think about even stuff that you like that has been collected. What would you say that you've liked that was collected that you'd want to recommend to someone who's like, hey man, I'm just getting into this stuff. I want to read more. Like, what do you think is good?
First thing that comes to mind is the Batman Court of Owls.
Okay.
As like, I read that, I thought the story was awesome, and it's like it kept me waiting for the next one. And when it was done, I kind of like I was kind of thinking, it's like, let this not be the end. Let it just go, let it just like fade away, and then maybe like 20 issues later, Talon will come back somewhere, but I think Talon
Has his own series.
Oh,
there's a character named Talon.
Yeah,
His own
yeah.
series.
Well,
Spun
yeah.
out
No,
of it.
I know he had his own series. It's like it's like let the Court of Owls kind of like
disappear for a little while.
Disappear, but then show up because in this story that's exactly what they did. They were always there, always in the background, but no one really knew about them. They kind of influenced stuff, and then all these events, just kind of like made it all bubble up to the surface. But yeah, that's out of the recent stuff within the last, what are we talking, 5-6 years?
I'd say even all time stuff that you just recommend.
Yeah. I definitely recommend that. It's got a great story. It's lots of action, and yeah, it kept me wanting more.
Cool.
Which is exactly what a comic should be doing.
Okay.
So yeah.
All right. So
we didn't touch on Independence.
I mean, by
Which I could
choice.
jump off the deep end. Stuff that I think is fantastic. I'm going to say this real fast.
Yeah. Oh,
Well, that's why I asked if we would just do it on trades.
Now, like trades. A lot of the independents find their readership in libraries or at bookstores because they
Gotcha.
don't get people coming in.
Yeah, for the smaller publishers is like I can go, like I mentioned Chum that was picked up on a whim. Image had Snapshot.
Oh, I
That
remember
was
Snapshot.
That was a
That was-
4-issue. Is like I just picked it up and I was like, oh, it's kind of interesting.
I wouldn't know if I'd recommend that to a reader. I feel like they'd get confused by that one.
Well, you got to understand it all has it's like a story done through the lens of a camera,
Right.
and the kid gets just like caught up with
All the craziness.
the pictures that were taken. It's like really bizarre. But yeah, for the independents, they got a lot of great little smaller stories that definitely want to pick up.
Oh, you don't want to hear about Witch Doctor, Jim?
All right, I think we should have our own independent section again.
That'd be probably a good idea.
So, since we touched on that, let's just go into stuff that you don't think would be suited for a new reader right now.
Like what I was talking about with Batman the other day, like before.
I mean, I can go on the same thing quickly, and then you guys can go off it. I mean, the same thing, Amazing Spider-Man. There's too much backstory. I mean, and I could be wrong. I think if someone isn't like me and they're not bothered by like kind of not knowing a little bit of the backstory,
You don't think Spencer's run is accessible?
I might not be up to there yet.
The current stuff?
Yeah, I might be a little bit behind.
I think
is Nick Spencer like the Spectacular? Did he do the Spectacular?
No. He's doing current Amazing Spidey with Ryan Otley.
I read a little bit. I'm still a little behind. I think it is, but again, to the same degree, they pull in all these other characters too.
Yeah.
Like you need to know a little bit about who they are, where they came from.
I think a lot of that is explained in story. I think you could jump in on Spencer's run. I think it's pretty accessible.
I don't know. I think it's a little bit on the same line as Batman.
Okay.
And then like, I don't know. You're reading more of the current X-Men. I'm a little bit behind. I'm currently in June 1994 of all X-Men issues.
Oh my God!
Working
I can't believe you're reading all
my
those.
way up to current.
That's so rough.
I haven't been reading as often as I was when it was a Spider-Man, or I would have probably also finished already. But
So rough.
yeah, like there's so much going on.
so
with
rough.
X-Men. Like X-Men, I feel like that's like one of the most confusing things to me, especially when I read recent stuff.
I love the Hickman run. I would be hard. I mean, I think he does a pretty good job distilling everything down, but I think I'd still be hard pressed to recommend it to new readers.
Yeah, it's just there's a lot going on.
There's a lot of
there.
history.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And you know what? The thing is now, like you don't have to buy the physical book. Like some of these physical books are, thousands or hundreds of dollars.
Yeah.
Like you have the ability to read it on a tablet or a phone even.
Yep.
It's just like there's so much history there. I mean, if you want to jump in with 2 feet, do it. Just do it if you have the time too.
You totally can.
Yeah.
And as I said, like you can catch up on stuff. If stuff is missing, you have all Wikipedia entries that have multiple links to other storylines and individual storyline like write-ups on certain stories.
Yeah.
Like there's a tremendous amount of information out there that'll help you out. Oof. I just think that there's some titles currently. Yeah. Maybe not so.
All right, you guys want to get through this quickly so we can get into the ending segment? Yeah. Wild. Anybody else have anything? No. That they would say would be a little bit of tough for a new reader.
No.
Bojo, give us one. Besides Batman.
Batman was my major gripe, I think, at this point. I think anything else is relatively accessible. Relatively.
Yeah. And again, like I'm a different, animal where it's just like I feel like I have this gnawing inside of me if I don't know what's going on in the background or I miss an Easter egg. But again, like you said, the internet's can quickly tell you what that was about.
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, you can jump in mid-story and work your way back if you need to. If you're interested enough, you can jump in anytime.
100%.
And
even with Batman or Spider-Man, I'm sure.
I'm a big believer in that.
Yeah. All right, so this is a cool one that Bojo also put together. So our ending segment today is going to be Found in the Wild. Wow, 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 wow. I don't even know what that was. It was just noises.
All right.
Sorry. We have children sleeping upstairs.
Wow.
There's somebody's children who are on this podcast.
Jesus.
All right, so best recent pickups. Found in the wild, garage sales, flea markets, pawn shops,
how recent
antique stores, even comic book stores.
How recent is recent?
The one that pops to mind first.
Oh, okay. I'll go first because I had said it earlier in the show. Chew.
Yeah?
I saw it on the shelf.
Chew or chum?
Chew.
Chew.
Yeah.
Chew. I saw it on the shelf. I picked it up. I flipped through it. And it's like, I think it was just the cover that caught me. The guy sitting at a table. He had a head on a plate.
Knife sticking out.
And on the body there was like body parts. And I was like, what the hell, what the heck is this all about? So it's like I stood there and I flipped through it, and I think within like the first 3 pages of reading it, I was like, all right, I'm gonna get it.
His intros were awesome in that title.
Yeah, it was different
Yeah.
And the story was you know, I said this before, the story made me want to read some more.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, and especially when he would go through the story and by the way, it's who is
It's
it?
John Layman
John
and
Layman
Rob Guillory.
and Rob Guillory. I botched that name.
I
Sorry.
probably watched it.
You know, it's like they would go through the story and then they would pause a second and they give you like a little back caption on the character.
The
it's
one-page recap of who this person
yeah,
is.
exactly. And
so good.
It was sort of like a step back. So it kind of was like I read it and I was like, what are they doing? And it's like, and then by the second issue, I was like, okay, it's like this is a really cool concept.
Where did you find this? Where did you wind up picking this up?
It was on the shelf in my comic store. I was just going through it and I was just randomly.
And is
going
this book
through
like worth money, or is it a significant issue for any reason?
Yes, it is. I don't know what the.
It's worth some money.
Yeah,
It's been worth some money for a while.
Yeah.
They were gonna do a TV series at one point.
Yeah,
I think
they're
they're doing
still
an
talking about
animated
it,
one.
yeah.
I still think they're doing an animated one. I don't know if it's happening or not.
I think it would be cool.
David
but,
Tennant was attached at one point.
Yeah, it's you know, just a short little background on it. It's basically it's 60 issues, so it's over. And it started in June of 2009. So
10 years ago, man.
Wow.
it's just basically an entire story. It follows this Tony Chu, who's a police detective, who's what they call a SIBOpath. Thanks for the ding. So yeah, basically he eats stuff and he can
Gets like
learn like the
flashes
last
from it.
moments of that particular thing's
Yeah.
life. You know, somebody's dead, he'll eat a piece of a finger,
Okay.
and he can see who kills him and stuff like that. But the funny thing is like he works for the FDA, which is like the most powerful
organization
in America, which is really weird. So, and there's so many different characters and so many different people with different abilities, and the best thing is they broke it up into like 4 and 5 issues. They broke it into chapters, so it's
Right.
like reading a novel.
Right.
All right.
And
We're gonna have to cut you off. We'll go into more of that book on another segment.
Excuse me.
JJ, you have a Found in the Wild?
Not really. I mean, most of my stuff either is from comic book shops or like I started buying bigger books from like Heritage Auctions.
So nothing that you pulled out. Oh, you like to overpay for books, guys.
Yeah.
Shots fired.
Damn. Nothing really significant.
Okay. I know you got a couple King Sharks out of boxes before, right?
Yeah, I mean, but those are $10 books. They're not that big of a deal.
How many you got now?
I don't know.
8 or 9 issues?
Quite a few of them.
What about you, Bojo?
I haven't bought anything out in the wild recently. My best pickup of all time, though, I was at a pawn shop in Delaware. I was on vacation. I was at Dogfish Head Brewery, and there was like a little flea market in town, and I was able to snag a X-Men 4 and almost a complete run of Alias for like far less than it was worth.
In a pawn shop?
In a pawn shop.
Wow.
And I was able to talk the price down because there was a piece of tape on the cover of the X-Men 4. I got them to talk the price down I was a real jerk. I was a real jerk that day. But listen,
Sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do.
you gotta do what you gotta do.
Now,
for
those
Wanda
that don't
and
know,
Scarlet.
Yeah, so X-Men 4 is
yeah.
first Brotherhood, so it's the first Wanda, it's the first Scarlet Witch, and I picked this up when Age of Ultron had been announced and wasn't out yet. So yeah, this isn't recent, this is a little bit older, but that's my all-time best, found in the wild. I used to do flea market dives, I used to go to other pawn shops, antique stores. Sometimes you get lucky, a lot of times you strike out.
I have a quick fun one. So there's a guy who does a little like outside, like a little kind of flea market. He used to run a shop called Island Collectibles in Oceanside.
Nice.
Good guy. We're pretty friendly with him. But he does these flea markets in the summer. I believe this was either July of August of this year. And I'm flipping through a book and I see this like Samurai Santa cover. I was like, this is cool. I was like, this is awesome. I was like, I don't know what it is, but like, this is really cool. So I take it out and I look it up, And Samurai Santa came out in 1986, published by Solson Publications. It is the first Jim Lee published work. He was the inker on the story. And, I mean, like, I don't honestly remember what I paid for it. Probably not very much. But, I mean, in the condition I have it, it's probably like a $50 book. So it was a cool pickup.
That's awesome.
That's
I
cool
love.
I didn't even, and it was the cover that attracted me to it. I didn't really know anything.
Recently, this past summer.
Yeah, this past summer, and it
Wow.
wasn't. You know, again, I haven't even read. Like, I flipped through it. And I think it might have even been black and white. I don't even.
I think it was
Yeah.
black and white.
It is black and white.
But yeah, it was cool. It was the color was the cover was obviously in color.
Garish
but it was
red
like
and
some
green.
sound. Yeah,
Like garish
yeah, it
red
was,
and green.
it was a fun pickup. It's fun to do that, and you know, one of our I was actually there with two former guests, our buddy Mike Caro and Tom Polari. And yeah, it was just fun. You know,
guys.
they forced me to keep digging my Caro at the very least. Like, all right, come on, next box. I was like, all right.
So was it a series or was it just a one thing?
I have no idea. I just got the one book. They
It's
only
a
had
one
one.
issue. It's a
Yeah.
one
It's
issue. It's a
one-
one
And there was
shot.
multiples in there
Samurai
too, but like
Santa.
I got like the nice one that was there. Yeah,
Dude, that's
That's
so damn funny.
yeah, it was cool. But yeah, that was my found in the wild. At least recently, there's been a couple others that I'll save for another segment.
Oh, nice.
That might not be so much in the wild, and maybe people who are sitting in this group may have given me good deals on. We'll talk about in the future.
I feel like this has something to do with a guy named Deathpool?
Yes, something like that.
Deadstroke?
All right, so I think that's it for the segment here. That was
Yeah.
fun. I'd like to do that again. I think you guys need to start digging.
Dude,
So we have
back
some more
back
fun
issue
stories.
diving is the most fun.
Yeah, 100%. It's the thrill of the hunt.
It is the thrill of the hunt.
Yep.
All right, so before we officially sign off, a couple announcements. If you guys did watch our live stream on Wednesday, we talked about Huracan. Hopefully, you guys could have all got there. They're a completely, charitable event in East Meadow. Also, I'm sure JJ or some of the other guys who were attending, WinterCon was Friday to Sunday this past weekend. And also, I think Toy Story, I'm not sure if he's going to be back by then, maybe checking out the Zapp's annual comic sale out in New Jersey. So he may be sharing some stuff from there. But other than that, you guys have any other announcements?
No.
I'd like to go to sleep. I'll announce that.
All right.
There you go.
All right, guys. Well, we appreciate you listening. You know, hit us up on all the social media stuff as usual. We will be posting up some interesting stuff about our first issues and stuff like that. So stay tuned for that. And as usual, remember...
Don't feed the geeks!